What's going on, everybody? Ernest White II here with my good friend Shebs Alom. Shebs, how are you, my brother?
Good. I'm really excited to be here with you, even though we are remote. It's great to always see your face, Ernest, always.
Well, listen, I mean, you're out there in the world. I don't know what city that is in the background, but it's clearly not the apartment that I have behind me.
Well, it's
So,
meant to be in the UK. They used to be, well, they still have the show this morning. It's a very prime time breakfast show. So they
mm,
used to film outside the Liverpool studios, and that was the background they used to have. So I've gone with that background because it was my childhood memory growing up. If you were in school, of course, during the summer holidays, you used to watch it and you'd be like, oh my God, that's Liverpool and stuff. So I've gone with the iconic view. So that's my background.
okay, so you're channeling old school
Old
broadcaster
school.
vibes.
Okay, yes.
When everyone was watching the same shows or at least one
Yeah.
of just a couple of options. And
Well,
so,
that's actually how, I was going to say that's how I learned a lot of my broadcasting as a, well, not as a kid, but as I was growing up. I was like, oh, well,
mhm,
maybe one day I can present like them.
and here you are presenting.
Yeah.
Not only do you present on television, but also radio and podcast, and you edit several magazines and print publications. And man, listen, we've known each other now for going on 5 years, and it's been a journey,
Yes.
but it's one that I have witnessed with great joy and pride. So, and only because I think you're fully expanding into a powerhouse storyteller that you already were, and just
Oh,
more so now. So thank you for giving
no,
me the
thank you.
opportunity to chat with you here in front of the world.
No, thank you. That's really kind words. And you have a lot of influence in my life. So over the last 5 years, we've been chatting along the dark times of the early 20s, the 20s, I should say. And but no,
The
it's been a
20s,
journey. Well, the
the
2020s,
2020s,
I
not the
should say, yeah,
1920s.
2020, 19, not the 1920s, yeah, yeah. Actually, that's true. You've got to say the 2020s rather than that, because before it used to be 20s to 30s. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's right.
But no, you've been instrumental. Some of the advice that you've given me and your mentorship, it's been great, and it's helped me become this person that I am right now. So I have a lot to thank you for as well,
Oh
Ernest.
man.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, and thank yourself. You have been just always. You have always shown up for me as just very positive and upbeat, as someone who um, still finds wonder
Mm.
in life. And so, how did you even start on this journey, Shebs, of traveling and then wanting to tell the tale?
My travels started from when I was a kid, actually. So my background is from Bangladesh. My parents emigrated to the United Kingdom in the early 1980s, and we had a moment when we were young, when I was younger, sorry, I should say, and they said we want to take you to where we grew up and show you what it was like for us. So this was like when I was 6 years old, and I remember very, very vividly my journey to Bangladesh for the first time, and I feel as though that was a very transformative moment in my travels from that age. You see, I understood what the dynamics was and what it was like. But back in that time, this was the mid 1990s, there was no electricity in that country, or
Mm.
most people didn't have electricity, no clean water, a lot of places didn't have, etc. But I understood what it was like for them to a certain extent. This is how they grew up. This is how they went through their lives, and they wanted just to show me that yes, you're in the UK, but you're growing up as a British citizen, as a British person as well. And it was very, very interesting as well, because the travel journey for myself technically started with my parents, because when they came over, they instilled in us that this is where we are now. We embrace it. Don't forget your roots. But this is the journey that we're going to take with you. And I think that was a very, very early travel moment that I can remember anyway. And then from there, I got the hook as the years went by. And then I'd like to think my first travel solo experience was when I was 18, and that's when I really got hooked, and I wanted to travel more. And I don't know where the last 20 years has gone, and I still look young. I like to
If you do
think.
say so yourself.
Yes, I
You
like to
do.
think. It hasn't. I think it's genes, the Asian genes, but
Okay,
the
the
journey
melanin
has been.
popping.
Yeah, but it's been a great journey, and it's allowed me to become this person that I am right now, and it's allowed me to experience things that have changed my perspective in life, and the positivity that I have within myself has been because of my travels,
Mm.
and I got into the industry as well. With my degree was in the arts, so I did a lot of filming, videography, photography. Always wanted to do that, and whilst I was still traveling, I was still taking photographs, I should say, of places where I went, and I had something like 50,000 photos before I even got into the industry officially. But once I got in, I knew how to talk, how to discuss travel, but also how to articulate what an experience is, because I've traveled for 10, 15 years prior to that. So that experience was vital. I tell young kids now who come to me for, I do some mentorships for young kids. I do reach out anyway. I tell them, travel, just get out there. You're not gonna experience it going on a work trip. You just have to go out there and experience it yourself. So I think that's been the key element to it. And of course, as I just said before, having people like yourself in my ear telling me this is what you need to do on a professional level is always great. I think that's a really, really important. I actually admire those kids reaching out, by the way. So it's great. There's someone from a university here in the UK reached out to me back in April, I think it was, and always happy to help and pass on my wisdom that I picked up from people like yourself.
Oh man, well listen, again, you're paying it forward, and I appreciate that you have that kind of foundation to be able to then really link that to your own growth as a person, and also to help create the world that you want to live in. What then are some of the most memorable experiences that you've had on the road in those few
Time,
years?
yeah,
That I was going to say many decades,
yeah,
but in those couple of
yeah.
years since you were 18.
I know. No, I can't believe it. As I said, don't know where the time has gone, but it's been a journey, as I said. And some of my most profound moments have been to remote places around the world, not necessarily countries that people might know of in the States or the UK, even, or anywhere in the world, anywhere in Europe, really. But one of my most fond memories I had was about 10 years ago when I was in Cambodia, and I knew about the history before I went. Didn't look into it too much. So one of the things I tend to do when I travel, I don't overindulge in the information, because I would like to find out when I'm there. I like tour guides or the locals telling me their story, because then you get the real stories, really. So when I got
Mm,
there and I had some of the locals tell me what had gone on, and I went to the killing fields in Phnom Penh,
mm,
then just looking into the history. But what really, really hit me was how happy these people were, and for
despite the
them to be,
history and circumstances.
despite the history, and it's so recent as well, despite that, they were optimistic, very positive. I'm thinking to myself, wow, they've gone through all of this
Mm,
in a short period of time, lost loved ones, friends, etc., but they feel as though they've got another chance in life. And that really hit me in terms of, okay, well, this is where I am, and I'm stressing about this and this and this, which is absolutely nothing compared to what these people went through. And that really changed me. I felt as though that was a
mm,
really, really changing moment in my life, actually. And then I started changing things within my day-to-day stuff, and that was a very, very profound experience. I like to think of it as one of my most, I would say, in the last 10 years has made me who I am today. Of course, I've had more journeys since then. I think every trip that I tend to go to, no matter where it is, if I've gone to somewhere in Europe, somewhere in Asia, somewhere in South America, wherever it is, Africa, I try and always now get the local experience, I think, because when I was younger, I had goals. I'm very fortunate, actually. I'm very fortunate in my life that I've traveled to everywhere that I dreamt of. That's
mm.
not many people can say that.
Yes.
But now I go based on how I feel, what people tell me, and I go over, and then people are telling me they've experienced this. Not just, by the way, local people there. I get to meet so many people who are traveling as well and see how their experiences is changing them, and that really gives me optimism. And when it comes to writing about it, that's part of, I think, the journey. That's hopefully people reading it anyway, the consumers reading it anyway, will grasp and think, well, okay, I want that same experience. I want that same narrative for myself, I think. So yeah, Cambodia was a very, very special place for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've never been, so I'm excited to experience that one day.
Oh,
But
you have to
then
go. You have to go.
you'll have to take me. So
Yes.
what then, when you look at how you show up, and I don't mean just in terms of your own kind of personal experiences up to that point per se, but I do mean in terms of you being a man, of Bangladeshi origin, certainly British upbringing, breeding, citizenship, and then also being from the Muslim faith background. How do you think these aspects of your kind of demography, if you will, have served you in the way that you travel in the world and engage with people in the world?
It's a very, very interesting, good point to make. Yep, I am of a Muslim faith, grew up, and my parents have, as I said before, taught us how to respect the culture within the British society. As I said, I grew up here in the UK, but also to understand the values of what it's like to be a Muslim and to grow up in the UK, and how it can coexist. And when it with any, it doesn't, even if it wasn't travel, even if it wasn't the industry that I'm in right now, you take that belief that you have and make sure you believe in what you do. And especially within this industry now that I'm in, it's don't get me wrong, it's been great. My journey, it's been a fantastic place that I'm in right now. Just the other day, there was an event, and it was a well-known event here in the UK called the Icons of Inclusion, and I had people telling me that they were speaking highly of me with it, and I wasn't at the event. That tells me that I'm doing something right. I've done something correct within the sector for people to notice me, and I have worked hard, by the way. The hours I've put in, and I think the journey that I've taken as a Muslim traveler, I didn't necessarily, when I was younger, think that this was really, really important. I needed to make sure I showed that side of my travels anyway, because I think you wanted to just get in, put your foot through the door, and not really be pigeonholed, and that was
Of
a
course.
concern. I'm sure people listening will understand what that means. So I really wanted to get my foot through. Then once I'm in, I'm in. But then over the last couple of years, I've definitely tried to promote the Muslim travel a bit more, the halal tourism in general as well. So I work with a company called Halal Travel Network now on a regular basis, and we've been promoting halal travel I have been anyway for the past 6-7 months, and that I'd work with it. I write their articles. I'm their news editor, and I've also learned how to write a different type of, and we're talking about trade writing as well. Because before I was doing consumer writing, but I'd never really done trade writing, and what that means is you're catering towards a business,
Sure.
and that was a different style of writing. So I had to learn quickly how to write that style. But I think over time, I think I've accepted, right, I need to embrace who I am and not be shy, or not shy away from my heritage. And an industry where it's constantly growing, why not promote the halal travel, what it's like for a Muslim traveler to go around the world, what's their journey like? And if they see me traveling to a place like Cambodia, they might think, well, I can do it as well. If they see me going to somewhere like the US and think, okay, yeah, I can do that as well. So I think my job is to really open doors, and the sector has grown, and the market, by the way, is worth nearly 300 billion, and it will be by 2028, the halal tourism sector, I should say. And that's, I'm not saying I'm single-handedly helping it, but I'm one of the guys here in the UK that is really, really putting it on the map. And I think hopefully people watching, people listening will think whatever sector they're in, if it's in a sector that they think they can prosper, then go for it, I think. But you have to put your 110% effort into it, because otherwise, if you don't, then you're going to come short, I think. But I think, yeah, it's been a journey. It's been one of those things where I really had to see within myself and then accept that I can definitely do good. And I feel as I have done, because I've been recognized by my peers. And that's really important to me, to be respected for what I do. Not necessarily liked, but respected.
Now you're coming around to seeing things my way. No, I'm joking. You're
Yes.
very well
But
liked, but I understand the point that
no,
you're
I am
making.
like I am
Yes,
generally, like the other day I went to an event and everyone wanted to chat to me, and that's great, because I do everything I can to
sure.
get to know people.
It's
And
icing on the cake.
yeah, I always try and see who, if someone tells me something specific, because I can give an example. There was someone, a travel writer, told me a little short story about herself when she was younger. I went back to her on Tuesday and said, "Oh, how was it? Oh, I remember your journey through that." And she went, I do remember that. People I usually tell just forget, but I make an effort. If I'm getting to know someone, and that's advice I would give to anyone breaking into this sector. If you are trying to get to know someone, really get to know them. Don't go out there, and if you're networking, pretend. I think be authentic. That's the authenticity.
Yes.
If you're authentic, if you're real, people will then be like, "Wow, I'm impressed.
Mm.
You remembered what I did," and that's really key. And if you remember their name, by the way, that's another important factor as well.
Sure, of course, and I think that goes with not only storytelling as kind of an industry or as a career, but also just human engagement. Just
Yes.
the point of being a I don't even know how we would describe it in the West African tradition. It's griot, a carrier of culture.
Mm.
That requires the ability to engage with people, and part of that just means seeing people. It means listening.
Yep.
It means using all
Yep.
of your senses to interact with someone. And yeah, it doesn't mean that you'll always remember the name, but like you said, it's if you can and do, even better. And I think that goes back to the point about, like, it is great to be well liked. However,
Yep.
respected because you show up with integrity, because you
Yep.
show
That's
up
correct.
with intention, you show up in a way that at least to the best of your abilities, you're going to get the job done. It doesn't mean always maybe to the level of perfection that we hold ourselves to, but at least your desire and intention is that you're going to do the best that you can do. And of course, respect just comes from that I guess
Yeah.
fullness
And
of self.
yeah, and I remember you telling me, this was very, very early on when we first started chatting. You said, whatever you do it to the highest of integrity. And that's a really important word, important saying that I've been telling others as well, because if you don't do it with integrity, then again, you're falling short. And you may look back and think, I could have done that better. I think that's a really, really important word for anyone listening, to make sure you have it in your lexicon.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, man. Thank you for the reminder. And also balanced out by the grace of, like, I'm not always gonna get there, and I say that as someone who falls off the diet bandwagon pretty
Oh.
much
Oh,
weekly.
don't we all? Don't we all? But you're
um,
looking great. I mean, Ernest, you're looking great.
oh,
You don't give yourself credit either. You're
thank you.
looking in shape. I've seen your recent shows,
Shut
six
up,
packs,
Shebs.
everything.
Just
You got it right.
lies. The
You got
lies
it
you
all there. Yeah.
oh, you trauma
Bulging
you.
biceps,
Oh,
muscles from
okay. That
Brussels.
I'm gonna use that. Muscles
Muscles
from
from Brussels.
Brussels.
Yes, that's
Oh, I
the
love it,
Jean-Claude
man.
Van Damme
Well, I'm
saying,
just
isn't
a
it?
mirror. I'm just a mirror,
It's
Shebs.
just a mirror.
So
Yeah.
you got the jawline, the hair on fleek,
Wow.
eyebrows looking like
Yeah.
Aladdin.
Well, you know what? That's actually because, especially the women, they'll say to me when the film came out, Aladdin.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh my God, you just remind me of Aladdin. It was like my easy way, and well, I'm still looking for my Jasmine. Then,
Well, exactly. Do
is
you
it?
trust me?
Yeah. Do you trust me? Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, a quick question. Going back to, we're going to go to magic, but in a second. When you say halal travel, what does halal travel refer to for those of us who aren't familiar with the term?
Yeah, it just means, so for anyone who's from a Muslim background, they have to have certain aspects of their well, it doesn't have to be travel, by the way. In halal in general, they abide by certain rules. So the meat or the chicken, or specifically, there has to be slaughtered in a certain way. It's a bit similar to kosher. Kosher is very well known within the US, and it's a similar way of making sure the meat is given to someone of a Muslim faith. So that's really important when you travel. Majority of the places that I've been around the world actually do cater for Muslims anyway. So that's a very important thing. And also things like going to a hotel, and if someone who is quite devout, making sure that their hotel room, because a lot of the times the minibars will have beers or alcohol, making sure that there's no alcohol in that room. And sometimes a lot of them will like to pray, and is there a space for them to pray within the hotel? Is there a prayer mat? Things like that. Also, a lot of the airports now, if you travel around, I'm not too sure about the US. I haven't been for a year or so, but I know within Europe and the middle, especially obviously the Middle East and in Asia, they do have prayer facilities in like airports now, which is a big step. So if you're not just, by the way, for Muslims, it's for all faith as well. So if you wanted to pray during you're waiting for your flights, you can do now. So those are like little very, very important factors that make the journey, well, it's easier for them. It makes the journey smoother for them. It makes it relatively enjoyable then, so you don't have to worry about all these things. And food is a very big factor, by the way, as well. So a lot of the times when people travel, food's a major element to the travel, because if you don't have the right food to eat, I feel grumpy sometimes if I don't get the right meal in my stomach.
Sure.
But it is making sure that those elements are followed. And as I said, it's a massive sector. It's growing as we speak. It's a niche-ish market still, but the reason why it's grown so much, I was telling you about my dad coming into this country in 1980, and my mom as well, that when they came, their job was to save. They had nothing. We had no house, no nothing. We had to build. They had to build from scratch. So they saved a lot of money. Now the second generation, I'm actually technically a third generation because my granddad came in the 1960s. So my upbringing was, okay, I've seen it. I've gone through the education. So I now have the chance to travel. So obviously I have done. So the reason why it's growing is because the generation now are of an affluent background. They're working, they've got money to spend, and they want to spend good money on it, you see. So that's the business element to it as well within the sector. So that's where I think it's a massive market. And as I said, the projection is going to be 300 billion by 2028, and that's what halal travel is.
Well, then listen, to me, I think it speaks to similar, let's say, accommodations, for lack of a better term, that for other communities that can kind of be adjusted for or be made with relative little lift, so
Yep.
long as they are aware. So especially when you talk about, writing for trade, and so you're writing for service providers, tour
Yep.
operators, and hotels and restaurants, and that kind of thing, tourism boards. If they are aware of the ways that in which they can make these accommodations, I would imagine that, like many things, it's actually easier done once you know that you can do them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, because the biggest misconception is there's a lot of effort that's going to be needed, and we're going to have to change our entire ethos of a hotel or restaurant, etc. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's just, as you said, small adjustments that's needed. And for example, where I work at the Halal Travel Network, they actually do training for a lot of these companies, and they can train them up, and it's a relatively easy thing to do, but you might not know what to do, and that's the thing. So unless you speak to the likes of myself or read my articles, etc., you wouldn't necessarily know how to go about it. But it's definitely a area of the it's not just. By the way, I mean, I deal with the halal travel this year so far anyway. But there's been cases of, for years and years and years, the UK market or the US market has wanted to attract tourists from China or Japan, or so you'd cater, you do some specific campaigns, etc., and you see how it goes. And then it has been well received in certain parts where Chinese tourists have come to the UK, and that was a big market. The UK market, I think the number one market was China, to get people across from China during the summer holidays and stuff. And that's so it's really that make the tourism boards, PRs, etc., really embracing what it's all about. And I think, honestly, I think it will be it won't really be a talking point. It's going to be something that's going to be a norm in a few years' time, I would say.
Beautiful. I love that optimistic trajectory, and I believe you as well. And yeah, okay, there may be some pushback, but so
Yeah.
so anyway, go ahead. I
No,
was
no,
gonna
no.
let that be, but
I was going to say, well, for over the year, it's someone from a Asian background, you're from a background of color. We're both. It's always going to be tough because the media industry is always going to be. But we've got to look at it positively. I think we've got to break down the barrier. We're going to break down the door, and
right.
at the end of the day, if you're doing good work, people will recognize it. As I said, at an event that I wasn't at, people were talking about me, whilst positively. And my friend and colleague was saying, wow, this is amazing. People respect you, people like you, people talk. And that's the good work that I've done. And if you do good work, that's all that matters. You'll get recognized.
I was just gonna say something about your hair, Chef.
Oh, wow. And of course, if you've got the hair, yes, it does help. I know you love my hair.
Well, it's something I aspire to, alas, this lifetime will not be able to enjoy the benefit of. But no, obviously, that's a running joke between us, audience.
You see this? I can flick it as well. I
right.
put my hands through it as well, like that. So
now you're just showing off. So back to magic that we kind of touched on earlier when we talked about your animated doppelganger. But I think we both really just we know that part of the beauty of life. Much of the beauty of life is the magic of life, and travel obviously is a huge part of that. And so, how do you try to imbue what you do as a storyteller, as a traveler, as a human being, with magic?
well, again a great question to ask. I think, again, with everything that I do, everything that I've done over the years, even this year has been a magical period. Actually, some of the work that I've done, I got my first TV gigs hosting a show. Went out to Sri Lanka, and that was, honestly, I thought to myself, it's a tough gig. It is very tough. You know what it's like. You do television yourself, but to land into Sri Lanka, because before I left, the producer said, right, okay, I'm going to do 3 segments. I want you to do one where you've just landed. I'm like, just landed? How am I going to do this? I've never done live broadcast before. And I thought, well, but you have to, again, all the training that I've done, I was very fortunate whilst I was at the radio. I had 16 months worth of training, media training, and how to broadcast, etc. You just use all those experiences and transition it. And of course, one of the things I've done as well with my podcast, which has been highly commended by the industry itself, award nominations. Not quite won an award yet for it, but hopefully very soon. But it's all about how I have practiced, and I've done live. When I record my podcast, I record it as if I'm live. So I knew I could just transition all those skills into a live television broadcast where millions are watching. Or I got the numbers the other day, actually. It takes about 6 weeks for it to come through, and they were very happy with it. But to go on there, just landing and produce something where I haven't slept, but to report live from a destination, something I didn't think I could do, but didn't think I could not do, but I didn't wasn't too sure whether I could do it to the highest of level because of the tiredness. But once you put your mind at it, you can do anything you want, you see. So, and then I managed to do a another live segment. Again, just the process of not everything's going to be in place for you. And that's what I learned about that element of it. Because with live television, things can go wrong, or things, you might not have the right equipment, or you might not have this and stuff. And that sort of is real magic. And then managing to do a segment where we recorded period, and it was only like a 5-10 minute segment, but like 6 hours to do. And you know what it's like. Now I really do understand when I've heard it on TV or like, get that line right because you're costing us. And I know what that means, because the more time you use for a scene that's going to be like 2 minutes, it's going to cost the production. So I totally understand that now. So I value it, because it took me, I think it was like 3 takes to get one scene right, but it was all about the experience and learning from the director as well at the time. So these are sort of stuff that I've taken over the years, over the last 6 months, 7 months, and I've really put it into my work. And it has. I like to think it has shown, because, as I said, I feel as though I've progressed in a way that I didn't think was possible. Considering 24 was a tough year for me in all aspects of work. It was just trying to. I think it was just in general within the sector, because it was still coming out of the dark times of the 2020s and stuff. But I think this year has really given me hope, given me real joy as well. I've really loved I love this industry. I'm hoping people can feel the enthusiasm that I have for it. But I do love the industry. I really want it to grow a certain way. I want people to embrace it. And I think and I hope people watching me or listening to me or reading my work can feel that, and feel that connection anyway. And hopefully that's all I can do, and inspire people as well along the way.
Oh man, so well said. I definitely feel the energy. I've always felt it, in terms of your passion for what you do, your passion for being out and about, exploring, engaging, connecting, and again, providing the space either through, for yourself or for other people to tell their stories, to share their stories, which of course does nothing but bring us together, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Now you started off as kind of like an influencer, in the sense that you were doing social media.
Ooh.
Do you chafe at that word?
Well, I never ever thought of myself as an influencer. I've always thought of myself as my podcast was what I first started off as.
Uh-huh.
But my socials were, yes, they were big for the time anyway, not anymore. But
And
I like to
YouTube.
think, and YouTube as well, yeah. But yeah, you're right. I think I transitioned away from that, but I still do all that sort of stuff, by the way. So I think I'm a multimedia journalist, I would say, where
100%,
I cover
100%.
everything, where you
And I
cover
didn't
everything.
say that you didn't, but I maybe, as someone who studied journalism in school, as someone who was always focused on strictly either the writing, moving into television, and really has had a
like a
tenuous relationship.
linear way, isn't it? Like the linear way of doing things.
Well, let's say maybe a more traditional. I wouldn't call it exactly linear. There were many concurrent things happening at the same time, but the for me, I've had a fraught relationship with social media, and that's what I really mean.
Mm.
And there were times when people were calling me a blogger. Yes, I had a
Mm.
blog, but I was a bona fide journalist with student
Yep.
loan debt to prove it. And so, yeah, I meant no offense when I said you started off more as an
No.
influencer. What I wanted to lean into was this transition that you made into more
Mm.
traditional methods
Yep.
of storytelling in terms of journalism. And so,
Yep.
if you could just talk a little bit about that journey from kind of producing yourself as a
Yep.
podcaster, as someone who has a handle on social media in a way that I
Yep.
definitely don't. And then expanding. I wouldn't even say transitioning, because like you said, you still maintain those other platforms. You've
Yeah, of
expanded
course.
into this kind of holistic storytelling space.
Yeah, I do remember a conversation that we had maybe a good few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I didn't regard myself as a journalist, but you kept saying, you are a journalist. Look at the work that you're doing. That is what a journalist does. And then it was that belief again when you said believe in yourself, because you are one. And I think that was the thing about when I was doing my podcast. And as I said, I was very fortunate. My first break came on radio, where I was hosting a show for a couple of years. Again, I still didn't regard myself as a journalist, but more as a broadcaster, podcaster. But my socials was always there. From I think going back 2013, 12, I was putting all my travels on there. It was how you documented your stuff, and it grew. People were looking at my stuff, and it was something that I was doing. As I said, I took over 50,000 photos in that time period. And it was, again, having that belief that I was good enough, my self-worth, and rubbing shoulders with people within a room. For example, on Tuesday when I was there, I felt like that was my place. There was no other place where I'd rather be than there. I deserved that spot. But prior to that, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was in a room full of those journalists who have done so much, written books, television, you name it, I felt out of place. But it was I think it's a mental battle. You got to get through the journey. I think that's where the transition really helped. And I said to you before as well, the work that you do, and not just the work that you do, but you have to be smart about how you go about it. And it's working really hard, and it's asking people like yourself, Ernest, how I can better myself. And if you've got, as I said, a mentor that you can speak to, or someone that can guide you to transition and do something that you are capable of doing, I think that's a really, really important thing. And I've got friends who have done the same thing. They've been traditionally bloggers, but then transitioned into writing books, writing articles for publications, doing more media, traditional media, let's just put it that way. And there's not many people within the sector, not many people in the world actually, that do television. So you and I are very special in that sense that we've done TV for, I mean, here in the UK, it aired on our satellite cable and free-to-air telecast. And that's not many people in life can say that to present a show like that. You've been on the same, isn't it? You've been PBS, which is a public broadcasting television corporation. Not many people can say that. And for me to be in that position, that is the hard work that I've done over the years, where I knew I was capable through my writing, I was podcast, for example. I've always done it on video, always edited it out. I've always thought of myself as a presenter. I've always done, because I did it in university. So if I've learned that skill in university, all I had to do was just transition it into actual live television. And I feel as though that is a journey that, again, having the right voices, having the right, I think also you have to have some element of luck to it, but networking, and it's all part of the process. And it's tough work, but you really have to persevere, because if you don't persevere, then it will eat you up, unfortunately. But I feel as though I was just positive all the time. And that's what you need to succeed, I think. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, it did. Shebs, listen, we're about to shut down our conversation for the moment, though I know we'll have another one, if not tomorrow,
I'm sure.
the day after.
Yes.
But so briefly, how can people find out more about you and what you've got coming down the pipeline?
Yeah. First of all, Ernest, thank you very much for having me on your show. Always a pleasure, real pleasure to be on your show. People can find me. The best way is my website, www.shebsthewonder.com. All of my social media platforms will be on there, all the links. My handle is @ShebsTheWonder if you wanted to. You can Google me, Shebs Alom, I come up. Apparently, some people, the other day, someone Googled just Shebs, and AI now knows who I am. The Google's AI knows who I am. Yes. So that is the hard work that I've done for Google's AI to recognize me. So that's it. So just Google Shebs, I'll come up. So that's the thing. But yeah, @ShebsTheWonder or ShebsTheWonder.com, you'll be able to find everything. And you can please follow me, send me a message. I'll be happy to interact. I'm always happy to connect with fellow travelers from around the world, or anyone really who's looking to have a good conversation. And I can talk, as you can tell.
Well, but it's always wonderful to hear you talk. Shebs, the one and
Thank you.
only, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here, man. It is always an honor, privilege, and pleasure. And yeah, you're a great one, man. I hope you know it. And now the
Thank you.
world, more of the world, because you know, AI already got you locked in as one of the great ones, man. So
No,
I
thank you
appreciate
so
you
much,
on that.
Ernest. No, I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much, Ernest. Thank you.
Great.